The NFL draft has concluded and offseason workouts have begun for all 32 NFL teams, meaning they have their 90-man roster set and are ready to see who will make the 53. But how does every team stack up against each other? Which teams are at the top and which teams deserve to be relegated to the UFL? In this video, I'm going to be presenting my 2026 power rankings heading into the season. Keep in mind that I'm ranking these teams at their floor, so besides one exception that I'll get to, these rankings are based on each team's current situation. If you enjoyed this video, then please drop a like and subscribe if you're new. Subscribe takes just a second and it really helps me out. Thank you, and let's get started. Number 32, Miami Dolphins. I feel like this one shouldn't be much of a surprise. This Dolphins team is absolutely abysmal. Devon Achane is the only threatening piece on this offense. I mean, Malik Willis has potential, but last time we saw him as a starter, he was a giant pile of steamy dog shit, so we'll have to wait and see if he can actually live up to the hype. The Dolphins didn't give him much help though. The wide receiver room was led by Jalen Tolbert, who by production was the Cowboys wide receiver 5 last year, Tutu Atwell, and a bunch of rookies. Their O-line features Jonas Savaiinaea, who is about as effective as a traffic cone against a Ford F-150, and their defense isn't really much better. They have some interesting linebackers, but Chop Robinson had a fall off worse than the boys, and this secondary is by far the worst in the league. This team has some potential, but right now there's no question they're the worst in the league. Number 31, Arizona Cardinals. You know the Cardinals are bad when Jacoby Brissett, who went 1-11 with this team last year, is holding out. But I guess you have leverage when your only other option is a drunk uncle and Sid from Ice Age. The rest of this offense actually isn't horrible. They have a decent wide receiver room. Trey McBride is arguably the best tight end in the league, and Jeremiah Love was an elite running back prospect who should be pretty good, assuming his O-line doesn't fall in the 2025 Raiders' footsteps. This defense is another story, however. They're full of either players with potential like Walter Nolan or Will Johnson, or declining veterans like Budda Baker. Plus, Garrett Williams doesn't look like he'll be ready to start the season. That really hurts their secondary, because they don't really have anyone else who can play the nickel and run defend like Williams can. This team has some excited pieces, but they're just not good. Number 30, New York Jets. After last year's disastrous QB situation where the person with the highest passer rating was Breece Hall, the Jets decided that their grand solution would be Geno Smith, the same Geno Smith that has thrown 32 interceptions in the last 2 seasons and just led the Raiders to the #1 overall pick. And the rest of the roster isn't great. The skill position players have a lot of potential with Omar Cooper and Kenyon Sadiq, and Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall are obviously great, but the O-line could use some work and the defense has a lot of holes. Not to mention they still have Aaron Glenn, who is the worst head coach in the league. Be prepared for another year of misery, Jets. Things just never change. Number 29, Cleveland Browns. I'll be honest, the Browns roster isn't that bad. It's not good, but it's not horrible. Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward headline a pretty solid defense. I like their new weapons and Denzel Boston and Casey Concepcion, and their rebuilt O-line should be pretty good. The reason the Browns are so low, however, is because their quarterback room currently consists of Jeffrey Epstein's protege, an egotistical freak, a garden gnome, and Lamar Jackson if all of his throwing sliders were turned to 0, aka the worst quarterback room in the league. And it's not even close. Both Shedeur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel were awful for this team last year. Taylor Green barely knows how to throw a football, and Deshaun Watson was so bad for this team when he played that I literally made an entire video using complex statistics to prove just how bad he was. I cannot believe that any organization would willingly walk into an NFL season with these as their quarterback options, but I guess it's the Browns, so maybe it should be expected. Number 28, Tennessee Titans. Finally, a team that has potential to not suck ass this year. While I am ranking teams at their floor, like I said, I do think the Titans have potential to far exceed this ranking. And it all comes down to Cam Ward. He showed a lot of flashes in his rookie year, but there was plenty of bad as well. However, I think the Titans did a lot to help Ward this offseason, bringing in new weapons like Carnell Tate and Wan'Dale Robinson. And I really like hiring Robert Saleh as head coach, and this defense isn't too bad. They're gonna have to prove it, but I like what the Titans are building. Number 27, Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders are another team that has potential. You always do when you have the first overall pick. I don't know if Fernando Mendoza is going to start the season, but considering 38-year-old Kirk Cousins is the other option, I would expect him to play at some point. The Raiders spent a lot of money bringing in new pieces, especially for this defense, and their O-line should be much improved with a now healthy Colin Miller and free agent Tyler Linderbaum. Plus, Asher Denty and Brock Bowers are 2 really good young pieces on this offense. Where this team does lose me a bit is the wide receiver room. It's basically like the Dolphins receiving core, but you give it one extra protein bar and a milkshake. In other words, it's bad, but at least it's led by someone who actually was a starter for their previous team. I also like the hire of Clint Kubiak, who did some great stuff with Sam Darnold in the Seahawks last season. Just like the Titans, they're gonna have to prove it, but the Raiders shouldn't be nearly as bad as they were last year. Number 26, New York Giants. I've seen some hype for the Giants, but honestly I can't quite get there with them. Jackson Dart showed a lot of promise, but he is still very young, and the rest of this offense has a lot of question marks. The entire receiving room is a huge debacle. Malik Neighbors had a cleanup surgery, so his week 1 status is in the air. For all we know, he's going to become the next Joe Mixon, and the depth around him isn't exactly amazing. The defense I think should be pretty good, but their D-tackle room is definitely worse without Dexter Lawrence, and the John Harbaugh hire doesn't exactly move me. I think he's a good coach, but he doesn't really elevate this team all that much. His ceiling is limited by his coordinators, and when one of those coordinators is Matt Nagy, that ceiling is so small only Kyler Murray could fit inside it. I like this team, but I don't think they're as good as some people are saying. Number 25, New Orleans Saints. The Saints are a team that really has a lot of potential and could absolutely exceed this ranking, but they do need a lot of young players to develop, and I'm not ranking based off potential, considering this team could just as easily flop. I thought Tyler Shuck showed some great stuff as a rookie, and adding Travis Etienne to this running back room is great. Jordan Tyson is also a good addition, and if Ian Olave can stay healthy, which is a massive if, they should be a really good duo. The O-line isn't amazing, but is solid, and the defense has some nice pieces, though I don't think they're the weak spot of the team, especially the D-line. I do want to believe in this team, but they're gonna have to show it first. Number 24, Atlanta Falcons. If the Falcons had even an average quarterback room, they'd be in the teens, but a QB competition between Michael Penix and Tua Tagovailoa isn't exactly exciting. Also, wide receiver outside of Drake London is questionable. I think Zachariah Branch has a lot of potential, but he's a third-round rookie, and Jahan Dotson and Olamide Zaccheaus don't really bring much optimism. But they do have the best running back in the league. Their O-line is good, and I think their secondary is good as well, especially with the addition of Avion Terrell. But having a bottom 3 quarterback room isn't going to limit how high you can rank, so hopefully whoever wins that can actually play somewhat decent football. Number 23, Washington Commanders. Call Jaden Daniels Eddie Hall with how much heavy lifting he's doing for this ranking. His sophomore season was riddled with injuries, but he's still a great quarterback and the sole reason that Commanders don't rank in the bottom 5. Because pretty much the entire rest of this roster is ass. They have no weapons outside of Terry McLaurin. They have one of the worst running back rooms in the league, and this defense is just abysmal. Odafe Elway and Sonny Styles are nice, but this team is willingly trotting out a safety duo of Nick Cross and Quan Martin in the big 2026. Backed up by a cornerback room of Meek Robertson and Mike Sainristil, who led all defenders in touchdowns allowed in 2025. This team might have to score 50 points a game. If Daniels can stay healthy, the Commanders won't suck, but this is not a good team. Number 22, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs are a difficult team to rank. They've been good ever since signing Baker Mayfield, but completely collapsed in the second half of last season, and while the roster doesn't look too bad on paper, they have their fair share of issues, and I think there's a lot of unknown with this team. Losing Mike Evans really sucks, and they're going to need someone to replace that production. Bucky Irving, after a fantastic rookie season, completely fell off in his second year, especially in the later half of the season. Baker Mayfield and Emeka Egbuka joined him in that second half fall-off after really strong starts, and there's just a lot of questions on if they're going to be able to return to their previous form. The good is in there, but they need to show it. The defense is much better with the addition of Ruben Bain, but they are horribly held back by Todd Bowles, who should have been fired after last season. I don't know what dirt he has on the owner, but there is zero reason he should be the head coach of this team after the disaster class he displayed last season. The Bucs will probably exceed this ranking, but there's just way too much of the air for me to rank them any higher. Number 21, Carolina Panthers. And now we have the team that barely beat them out for the division. The Panthers have been slowly getting better ever since drafting Bryce Young and actually almost beat the Rams in the wildcard game. At this point, Young is in that 15 to 22 range of quarterbacks and has come a long way since his rookie season. But this team still has some holes. I don't love the receivers outside of Ted McMillan, even if Coker's a fun story. And their O-line is questionable considering Ike Mekwonu is more than likely not starting in 2026. The defense did make some nice upgrades in free agency though, signing Jalen Phillips and Devin Lloyd. And I think Lee Hunter was a great addition in the draft. The Panthers being ranked at 21 despite being the highest ranked NFC South team just goes to show how bad this division is, but hey, at least the Panthers are top of something. Number 20, Indianapolis Colts. The Colts are one of the best teams in the NFL to start this season. Then Daniel Jones went down and they missed the playoffs entirely. Jones is a massive wild card. He looked awesome to start this season, but did start to decline in the last few weeks before getting injured, so it's hard to know exactly what to do with him. I do like the rest of this Colts offense, however. Jonathan Taylor is obviously great, the O-line looks to be pretty good, and contrary to what many say, I think Alec Pierce deserved every bit of that $116 million extension. The defense is where things get a little more dicey. I like the secondary with Sauce Gardner and Charvarius Ward, but they don't have a great edge duo, and their linebackers are Akeem Davis-Gaither and 2 rookies. This team has shown they can be really good, but that could have been just a flash in the pan. We'll have to wait and see. Number 19, Jacksonville Jaguars. This may seem low for a team that just won their division and made the playoffs, but ultimately the Jaguars had probably the worst offseason of any team, downgrading significantly from 2025. They barely made any moves in free agency, had an awful draft in my opinion, and lost a lot of pieces. Trevor Lawrence is coming off his best season as a starter, and this edge room is as good as it's ever been, but their running back room is the worst in the league. They currently have Chris Rodriguez slated to start, who's been a backup for the Commanders, and this D tackle room is on the decline. I definitely don't think this team is bad, but if this team at the end of last season was a nice burger from In-N-Out, the team is now one from Burger King. Number 18, Green Bay Packers. Okay, I know this is low, but remember, we're ranking these teams at their floor, as they are now. And right now, the Packers don't have Micah Parsons, and probably won't for the first quarter of the season. And no Micah Parsons plus no more Jeff Hafley equals a Packers defense that isn't very good in my opinion. Their other edge rushers are Lucas Van Ness, who's still very unproven, Brenton Cox, the UDFA from 3 years ago who's never been a starter, and Denny Des Sutton, a 4th round rookie drafted this year who's obviously never played a snap. That is probably the worst edge room in the league and is the main reason this team ranks in the bottom half. Also, their cornerback room still isn't amazing, but I do like Brandon Cisse. Pretty much everything else is good. Jordan Love has ascended into a top 10 quarterback. Josh Jacobs is still an elite running back, even if he's allegedly a piece of shit. And Tucker Kraft should be back for week 1, headlining a very solid group of pass catchers. When Micah Parsons returns, this is a top 12 team at least, but right now, they sit down at 18. Number 17, Pittsburgh Steelers. As usual, the Steelers are right around the middle because that's what they've been for the past 8 years. Aaron Rodgers came back to them and he didn't play bad for them last year, but he is 42 years old, so there's only so much he can do. Adding Michael Pittman and Jeremy Renard to this wide receiver room is great, and I still think this defense is pretty good. The jury is definitely still out on Mike McCarthy, but hey, at least he gets to work with Rodgers again. I feel like no matter what Pittsburgh does, they're going to end up going 9-8 and losing in the wild card, but on paper, this definitely is a solid team. Number 16, Cincinnati Bengals. This is the same conversation we've had the past few years with the Bengals. Elite offense, subpar defense. They did add Dexter Lawrence, which is great, but they lost Trey Hendrickson. I did love the selection of Cassius Howell in the second round, and I think he can be really good, but he hasn't played a snap yet, and neither he nor Boye Mafia are going to replace the production Hendrickson games to this team. Their secondary also isn't amazing, and their linebackers were awful last year, so they're going to have to step up in 2026. But obviously, this team cracks the top half because of their offense. Joe Burrow is still an elite quarterback, and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are one of the best wide receiver duos in the league. Also, Zach Taylor being the head coach did pull this team down a couple spots. I don't understand how he hasn't been fired yet. If Joe Burrow can stay healthy, this team should be pretty good. If not, well, we've seen what happens. Number 15, Los Angeles Chargers. We're into year 7 now of seeing if Justin Herbert can actually win a playoff game. This Chargers team is relatively similar to years past, but they're getting their 2 tackles back in Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt, which is huge obviously. However, I'm a bit worried about this defense. They do have talent, and I love the Akeem Mesdor pick in the first round, but right now, I don't think this is all that great of a defense. They lost Jesse Minter to the Baltimore Ravens, who was a fantastic defensive coordinator for them, so newcomer Chris O'Leary has some big shoes to fill. And this defense does feature a lot of aging veterans like Khalil Mack, Dalvin Tomlinson, and Derwin James. Obviously, having a top 10 quarterback in Justin Herbert plus an elite tackle duo is going to help your ranking, but I don't think this team is trending towards the top of the league like some people do. Number 14, San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers still have names that you look at and think, how is this not a top 10 team? Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, Mike Evans, George Kittle, Trent Williams, Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, all great players. But that's the thing, this team is very top heavy and the talent falls off a cliff after these players. The D-line consists of 2 starters, CJ West and Alfred Collins, who were horrible last year. Drake Greenlaw has been declining and can't seem to stay healthy. Their entire secondary is extremely mediocre. Their O-line outside of Trent Williams isn't horrible, but it's not amazing. Their 2 starting receivers in Evans and Ricky Pearsall are extremely injury prone, and the depth isn't great, and George Kittle might not even be rated to start this season. The top end talent is going to carry this team, but they do rank at 14 because they're about as well rounded as the Earth if flat earthers got their way. Number 13, Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, 49er fans aren't going to be happy with me for putting Dallas above San Fran, but it's the truth. I think Dallas has a really solid team. Dak Prescott's still a top 12 quarterback at minimum. CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens are an elite wide receiver duo. And this D-line with Quinnen Williams, Kenny Clark, and Donovan Ezraku, I think is actually pretty good. Javonte Williams broke out last season, solving their running back problems. And the secondary looks a whole lot better with Caleb Downs in it. Not to mention Matt Eberflus is no longer the defensive coordinator, which is the definition of addition by subtraction. I know it seems high for a team that just won 7 games last year, but I think the Cowboys have a ton of talent and unlike the 49ers, are a very well-balanced team. Number 12, Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings went 9-8 with some of the worst, most abhorrent quarterback play this league has ever and will ever see. Now that they have an actual quarterback in Kyler Murray, I'm surprised more people don't know the Vikings in the top 12. This team is extremely well-rounded and I think they improved a lot this offseason. With the signing of Juwan Jennings, there's no question the Vikings have the best wide receiver room in the league. Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison were already a top 5 duo, but Jennings would be the wide receiver 2 on most teams, so the fact that he's the 3 here is a testament to how good this room is. The O-line is still rock solid with an elite tackle duo, and even though they did lose Jonathan Grenard, Dallas Turner outproduced him last year, and I think he can fill the edge 1 role nicely. This team is far from perfect, Kyler isn't anywhere close to an elite quarterback, and the secondary isn't amazing either, but with Kevin O'Connell's ability to get the absolute best out of every quarterback he coaches not named JJ McCarthy or Max Brosmer, and Brian Flores' ability to get the absolute best out of any defense regardless of who's playing, I think the Vikings are a sneaky good team. Number 11, Chicago Bears. The Bears had a magical year in 2025 and retained pretty much all their pieces from that run. Their wide receiver room is a bit worse without DJ Moore, and their secondary is hurting from the losses of Kevin Byard and Jaquan Brisker. Both those position groups are still good, especially the secondary, and the Bears don't have a ton of holes elsewhere. Caleb Williams has extended to top 12 QB status under Ben Johnson. DeAndre Swift had the best year of his career under Ben Johnson. Jolin looks very solid under Ben Johnson. Haven't mentioned the fact that the Bears are coached by Ben Johnson. I do think this defense is very solid, especially with the addition of Dylan Thieneman, and I see no reason why the Bears can't repeat their success from last year. This is a damn good team. Number 10, Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens kick off the top 10, and when you have a QB running back duo of Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, it's hard to imagine you being outside of that. These two are obviously the headliners of this team. Derrick Henry hasn't shown any signs of regression, and when Lamar is healthy, these two are extremely dangerous out of the backfield. I also love the Jesse Minter hire, and that should make this already good defense even better. Even with Marlon Humphrey declining, the secondary is still really good, and I think Trey Hendrickson and Zion Young are going to be a very formidable edge duo. The real questions with this team lie in the receiving room. Outside of Zay Flowers, his receiving core is pretty much nobody. Rashad Bateman disappeared last year, putting up just 224 yards, and Devontae Walker's been a backup his first 2 years. I do think 4th round pick Elijah Surratt can be really solid in this offense, but he is going to have to prove it first. But overall, this is definitely a very good team, and I'd expect them to be back in the playoffs. Number 9, Philadelphia Eagles. Remember how I said in the intro that there is one exception to the ranking teams based on their current situation rule I established? This is that exception, and as I'm sure you can guess, it has to do with AJ Brown. This video is being posted on May 30th. If you're watching this after June 1st, there is a very high chance AJ Brown has been traded to the New England Patriots. This has been something that has been in the works for months, and June 1st is when Brown's salary cap can be split among 2026 and 2027, making it more financially viable for the Eagles. So for these power rankings, I'm ranking like AJ Brown as a Patriot and not an Eagle, which is why Philadelphia is at 9 because otherwise they'd be closer to the top 5. This makes it so that my video doesn't become outdated in 2 days when this trade most likely occurs. Anyway, even without Brown, the Eagles still have a damn good roster. Their defense was already really good and only got better with the addition of Jonathan Grenard. They still have one of the best O-lines in the league. Saquon Barkley is still a great running back. Jalen Hurts is there, and even without AJ Brown, the receiving core of Devonta Smith, Mekhi Lemon, and Hollywood Brown is still really good. While losing AJ Brown will suck, this is still a really good team. Number 8, Houston Texans. If CJ Stroud didn't shit his pants in the playoffs last year, this team would be higher, but considering Stroud hasn't progressed at all since that incredible rookie year and we are currently seeing him at his worst, I can only put the Texans so high. In just a few years, Stroud went from carrying this team to the playoffs to holding them back from winning a Super Bowl. But regardless, this team is still number 8 for a reason, and that's their defense. They have the best defense in the league, no question. Will Anderson and Daniel Hunter are still an elite duo. They added Caden McDonald through the draft to give them some beef up front, and they still have an elite secondary reinforced by the addition of Reed Blankenship. Not to mention, on offense, they added David Montgomery. Tank Dell should be back and ready to go week 1, and they added new pieces to the O-line to hopefully make it not suck. Stroud doesn't even need to be a hero anymore. If he can play like the 12th best quarterback in the league, the Texans have a real shot of winning it all. Number 7, Buffalo Bills. We're used to seeing this team high up in the rankings, so this shouldn't surprise anyone. With the injury to Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen might have taken the cake for the best quarterback in the NFL. James Cook just keeps getting better, and this receiving core looks so much better now that DJ Moore has been added. However, I don't really see any other part of this team being elite, which is why the Bills are at 7 and not higher. The O-line and D-line are both good, but nothing incredible, and the secondary does have its question marks. I don't love that Geno Stone is a starter, and while Greg Rousseau is good, he's not a true number 1 edge rusher. Also, I don't think Joe Brady moves the needle that much as a head coach, but it'll probably be better than Sean McDermott. To be honest, I don't see this team being any better than the ones they fielded the past few years, so I'm not sure it's going to be enough to win a Super Bowl, but it's still a really good squad. Number 6, Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes is already practicing at OTAs and is looking more and more likely he'll be able to play week 1, hence why the Chiefs rank so high. In terms of overall quality, this team is about as good as the ones they fielded the past few years, but it looks way different. Kenneth Walker finally gives them that run game they've desperately been searching for, but on the flip side, their secondary is worse after trading away Trent McDuffie and losing other pieces in free agency. I do like the addition of Mansour Delaney in the draft, but it's foolish to expect him to replace McDuffie right away. The rest of this team is mostly the same, except for one big change at offensive coordinator, as they're bringing Eric Bieniemy back. Patrick Mahomes had his best years under Bieniemy, so I really like that move, and I think he can help get this Chiefs offense somewhat back to the level they were at in the first few years of Mahomes' career. If Mahomes isn't ready to go week 1, this team obviously would drop a number of spots, but he's looking ready to go, and maybe the Chiefs can be back in the playoffs this year. Number 5, Detroit Lions. Okay, I know this looks high for a team that missed the playoffs to finish last in their division in 2025, but this team is still ridiculously talented and improved in the offseason. The O-line was a problem in 2025, so they brought in Cade Mays and Blake Miller to help with that. I think the combination of DJ Wonnum and newly drafted Derek Moore is going to be a good 1-2 punch opposite Aiden Hutchinson, who is still elite. They still have Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph, the best safety duo in the league, and this offense is full of weapons like Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Samuel Porter, and Jameson Williams. Also, I think Jared Goff has honestly started to become a bit underrated. He's had over 4,500 yards and 30 more passing touchdowns in each of the last 3 seasons, and also has consistently been towards the top of the league in terms of yards per attempt. I would absolutely expect this Lions team to be back in the playoffs in 2026, and the Super Bowl window is still wide open. Number 4, Denver Broncos. If it wasn't for Bo Nix fracturing his ankle right before the AFC Championship game, the Broncos probably would have been in the Super Bowl. And not only are they running it back with pretty much the same team across the board, they actually upgraded massively at wide receiver, bringing in Jalen Waddle from the Dolphins. He and Courtland Sutton form a really good wide receiver duo, and this Broncos offense is going to be dangerous. And of course, we already know how incredible this defense is. With Sean Payton running the show, I have no doubt the Broncos will be back in the playoffs in 2026, and this is going to be a great team. Number 3, New England Patriots. Remember, we're operating under the assumption that AJ Brown is a Patriot, and that move pushes New England into the top 3. He, Romeo Doubs, and Kayshon Boutte form a really good wide receiver room, and the rest of this team is phenomenal as well. Drake May exploded in year 2, coming second in MVP voting, and this amazing defense only got better with the addition of Kevin Byard. The O-line should be much improved with Elijah Vera Tucker and first-round pick Caleb Bloomer entering the building, and if this AJ Brown trade does happen, which I'm almost certain it will, then I think the Patriots are the best team in the AFC and are poised to potentially make another Super Bowl run in 2026. Number 2, Seattle Seahawks. No, I don't have the Super Bowl champions at number 1 because while they still are a phenomenal team, they did lose a lot of pieces in this offseason. Kenneth Walker is now a Chief, so starting in his place is Jadarian Price, who is good but no Kenneth Walker. And Boye Mafe, Tariq Woolen, and Kobe Bryant were all key defensive players lost to free agency. But we all know how good this team still is, especially under Mike Macdonald, one of the best coaches in the league. Somehow they still have Anthony Bradford starting, but other than that, the holes on this team are tiny and they should be a scary team to face once again this season. Number 1, Los Angeles Rams. The Rams and the Seahawks were neck and neck ending last season. Whoever won the NFC Championship game was going to win the Super Bowl. But this offseason, the Seahawks downgraded, while the Rams upgraded significantly. The only real need was secondary, so they casually went ahead and signed Jalen Watson and Trent McDuffie, more than filling that hole. And there aren't really any other holes on this roster outside of maybe wide receiver 3. But this team runs so much 12 and 13 personnel that it honestly really doesn't matter. The Rams are an incredible team coached by an incredible coach, and in my opinion, are the best team in the NFL. But that's it. Those are my power rankings entering the 2026 NFL season. Where do you agree? Where do you disagree? Comment below. If you enjoyed this video, then please drop a like and subscribe if you're new, and that's it for me. See ya!